continuation of the Vasa hill. All those who are pledged members, those who are friends, please lend your support for $100. Or if you don't have $100 on any card, it will be beneficial. The sisters group would like to thank those who participated in the fundraiser last Friday and look forward to your continued support. Brothers and sisters who are interested in joining the team, there's training from Monday and Wednesday from after to November.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات أما بعد. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having gifted us with Islam. The greatest gift that any human being could get from their Rabb is to be a believer. Greatest gift. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us human beings and the jinns for no other purpose except to worship Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this enlightenment. He has given us hidayat. And He has made us among those who are in the ummah of Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this ummah the best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that among us will be the best people who has arisen out of mankind. But there are certain conditions that are attached to this barakah, this blessing. enjoining what is right and prohibiting what is evil. That is part of the responsibility that is attached to being among the best people. We are 90 days into the slaughter of our brothers, sisters, and children in Gaza. The Zionists continue in league with their big brothers, America, Europeans, and all those people who support them in their quest, in their exercise to eliminate the believers from Palestine. Over the last several weeks, we went into the details as to the reasons for this slaughter. And it is important as Muslims that we continue to highlight and expose the truths with respect to what is taking place. So we have about 30,000 people have been killed so far. More than almost half babies, children. For Gaza is populated with many, many young people. And the slaughter continues. The intent of the Zionists, whether they are the American government who represent the Zionist interests, or by Netanyahu and the IDF and these people on the ground, the plan is the same: to reduce Gaza to a heap of rubble so that nobody could live there. So they continue to invent more and more lies. The latest one that we hear now is that every other house in Gaza has a connection to the underground tunnels, all the schools and everything else. So you're talking about 2.3 million people having access to these tunnels like these little moles. So the Israeli woman was telling the British people today that we have no choice but to demolish everything. Break down, bomb every building. So they clear, so they're no longer doing it, underhand. They have made a clear statement by this woman. She represents the Zionists. She said the plan is to bomb every building, reduce it to rubble, make it uninhabitable. So they're continuing their slaughter of the innocents. As we speak, they are in conference with certain African states, Democratic Republic of Congo, Chad, and a lot of these poor African states. They say that they're going to take these people who haven't been bombed to death and put them on boats and send them to Africa, to these African states. So they right now, the Zionists, over the table, negotiating terms and conditions, how to put these people in these African countries. And these things are happening in broad daylight. They're not doing these things under law. That is the amount of contempt. That is the extent of contempt that they are holding for us as a people, a Muslim people. We talk about prophecy of our beloved messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're talking about the time when the Muslims would be numerous, but we will have a disease that is called wahan. That wahan is the love of this world, fear of death. So as a result of that disease in our hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He would remove from the enemies of Allah, the enemies of the believers, all fear for the Muslims. So they will treat us as scum. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, has drawn the analogy as if you have this flood coming down and all the old froth and old thing that you see on top of the flood, on top of the, that is where the Ummah will descend to. Where these people could be doing all these things and the Muslims continue to sit idly by. So, as a community, we must voice our disapproval, and more than disapproval, our anger as to what is taking place, and voice our anger with the level of inertia and weakness of the Muslim population at large. We must do that. It must go on record that the Jamaat al-Muslimin had taken a firm position. We have taken a firm position of support to our brothers and sisters who are being slaughtered. All we could do from thousands of miles away is to voice our anger and make dua, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring about his help and a victory for the believers. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, and he has said how regular have a few defeated the many. So we know that eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's intervention would be coming at whatever stage he chooses for that to happen. So for the time being now, the Ummah is being tested to see how we would behave in the face of all this transgression. So the mask is off. No longer people could be hidden from themselves. Allah has exposed everyone. Everybody is exposed. The Muslim states, the Saudi, the Egypt, where all these Muslims are present, Jordan, everybody under trial now. Everybody under trial to see how they would behave with respect to this transgression. But this disease of wahan that exists within the Ummah, that has reduced us to this stage of weakness, we need to get that expelled from ourselves, get it out. This love of this dunya and fear of death. And anytime we make a step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah makes two towards us. If we come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala walking, he comes to us running, figuratively, of course. But we have to initiate the action of change. We need to make the step towards Allah first to get rid of this disease of wahan that has infected like a plague the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Jamaat al-Muslimin begs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get that out of us. This wahan, this love of the dunya and fear of death. Because, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has decreed life and death. No matter how they might try to initiate their processes of slaughter, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not put your name on the list for those who are leaving, you can't go. Just recently, they bombed a house, killed everybody, and this little baby in the rubble, playing in the rubble. A little baby in all the bombing. Let's come and pick up the baby and carry the baby. That is the reality. And the Muslims need to understand who is Allah. We have forgotten the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as how the Sahabas understood who is Allah. All of us know about this hadith, called the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. Very popular hadith. There was this time when the Muslims were sitting with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and there was this person that came out of the desert. His clothes was exceedingly white. His hair exceedingly black. You see no sign of travel on him. And he sat right up to the Rasul, personal, right up to him. Where his tie was touching him. Real close, partner kind of thing. And he started questioning the Rasul about certain matters. So what is Islam? And he asked him, what is Iman? And he asked him what is something called Ihsan. And the Prophet explained in detail. We can't, for brevity, for reasons of time, we can't go into all the details. We should just go and look for the hadith of Jibreel, and then we understand that Jibreel came to teach the Muslims in the presence of Allah what is their deen. And part of the questioning was about Qiyamah. When would this time come? And the Prophet said, well, the questioner and the question, nobody know. No, we don't know. You don't know, I don't know. So tell me about the signs. And one of the signs, he said, and you'll see the barefoot shepherds, ordinary poor people, competing with one another in building lofty towers. Lofty buildings. Them days, people living in tents. And Jibreel is telling Rasulullah is telling Jibreel in front of them. Jibreel is the angel, so he know. So he telling now, for the Sahabas' purposes, to show that interface with the Sahabas, tell them, you'll see these signs. So right now we have the signs of the last days in front of us. Competing. The evidence is in front of us. The building of lofty towers, mansions. No mansions, skyscrapers. Some of them going up in the cloud. Dubai built one the other day. In Saudi say now we have to beat that. So they're competing with one another as in terms of evidence. So the Muslims now, when you see Hadith Jibreel, you would know for a fact that in the last period. So it is a time for the Muslims to wake up and recognize our state. Are we in a state that we are ready to face Allah Almighty? When one person asked Rasulullah, when would be the day of judgment? He said, what preparations have you made for it? What preparations have you made? So it's upon us now to prepare ourselves for this fitna that is coming upon us. Because part of the knowledge of the deen of Islam is that the last period will be so much fitna, so much trial. They say that the person who living would be rolling on a grave and saying, I wish I was inside the grave. That is the kind of pressure we're talking about. So we could continue to feel it's business as usual and see all the signs in front of us and continue to live careless. Continue to be in, how he hang his swing, it don't matter. We could continue that way. But we have been warned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jibreel alayhi salam came and tell us about the signs of the last days, and we've seen it in front of us. We're seeing the transgression, the wanton slaughter of the believers, and we're seeing this wahan, this disease that has entered the souls of the Muslims, that they're sitting by and watching this slaughter and wouldn't lift a finger. They say that the few hospitals that are left standing, they have no anesthesia, no anesthetic. So a man that gave foot amputated, no anesthetic. So they had to chop off your foot without anesthesia. The other day I saw a little young man, a youth, could be about less than 10 years, 11 years. He get some shrapnel or something damage him. And he going by the doctor now for surgery. No anesthesia. You know what he using? The Quran. The little youth man reciting ayahs of the Quran while the procedure is going through, where they're doing whatever removal of shrapnel in his body. Little youth showing us the reality of true Iman. So, the Muslim Ummah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in a position that we have to make a choice. Either we choose to remain dormant, inactive, and continue and say, well, I had to see about myself and my family. I can study them. If you take that position, that will be a fatal position that we'll take, because the reality is that the fitna is crawling closer and closer to us. Earlier this week, there was this Imam in Newark, that is somewhere in New York side, in the New York State, a place called Newark, New Jersey or something, some kind of place like that. They walk up and execute the Imam in front of the masjid. That is where we are now. And people feel that, it's business as usual. No, it's not business as usual. These people intent is to anybody who they perceive as being against their plan and their program, their plan is to eliminate you. So the Palestinians in front of them, the Palestinians in the front line, in the first line of fire. So the only way now they could have their way is to bomb the place into oblivion, so that people can't even have a place to rest their head. Nothing. Lack of food, lack of water, block them off, isolate them. And now they're talking to Chad, talking to the DR Congo in Africa, to ship the Muslims like cattle, load them up into boats and ships like slaves, and drop them off in these African states. That is going on now as we speak. Discussions. So we must enlighten the believers so that people could be roused. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, rouse them. He tell the Prophet, rouse them. Rouse the believers. So we must be awakened. We must be awakened. And we must be mindful that if we take a position of indifference, sooner or later, the fitna would be at our doors. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised victory for the believers. It's a promise. But the believers must qualify for that promise of Allah Almighty. Must qualify. And the qualification is for us to do what is required to allow ourselves to grow from being a Muslim, just submitting my will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm a Muslim, to being a believer, a mu'min. Remember we talked about Jibreel alayhi salam, the Hadith Jibreel. First thing he asked him, what is Islam? What is being a Muslim? So Islam translates to being a Muslim. You make your prayer, you do your basics. Shahada, basic. And then you graduate from being a Muslim who have no belief and no iman of strength to becoming a mu'min, a believer, a higher level of existence. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about the believers in one breath. They were these Bedouin Arabs. They say that we are believers. Allah said, no. Faith has not entered yet into your heart. So don't call yourself believers. Say rather, I have submitted my will. I am a Muslim, yes. But don't call yourself a believer. Because Iman has not yet entered into your heart. So it's a process of growth from being a Muslim to becoming a believer, which is a mu'min. And after that now, Jibreel alayhi salam was talking about the third thing. What is ihsan? So he asked the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the presence of the Sahabas, what is Islam? What is Iman? And he asked him, what is ihsan? And that was the level of your worshiping Allah as if you're seeing Him. Or if you can't see Him, indeed He's seeing you. You have that consciousness. So your level of relationship with your Lord is at a different level. We are talking about the believers. We're talking about being the mu'min, and these people who have this quality of ihsan is called the muhsinin, the muhsin. So somebody will say, I am Muslim, alhamdulillah. But you have to go now to the other levels. And how you arrive at those levels? By struggle, work. And the work is not digging dirt and planting garden and things. That's not the work, mixing concrete. To qualify to go from a Muslim to a mu'min is tahajjud salat, extra fasting, purification of your intentions, doing good amals. That is the work that has to be done to graduate from being a Muslim to becoming a mu'min, a believer. And when you have become a believer, you have not stopped the growth path. You continue now doing amals, extra ibadat, until Allah loves you. He says we will go closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the nafil. First thing, we have to establish our amals of compulsory prayer and all that. First order, must establish your salah. Do what is halal, what is haram. You're eating halal, you're making sure your money, you ain't getting haram practices and so forth. You ain't involved in fornication and all them different things. And then you become a believer. And then you start to excel in additional good deeds until Allah loves you. And when Allah loves you, He calls Jibreel and says, I love so and so person. You also love him. And Jibreel, I'll say, I love that person. And Jibreel now goes and communicates with all the angels. Allah loves so person. You also love them. And when that person is loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, You have a different level of human existence, a different reality, different level of existence. But those things were explained in detail by Jibreel alayhi salam to the Prophet in the presence of the Sahaba. What is Islam? What is Iman? What is Ihsan? So as Muslims, we know that we're struggling at this point, but we will keep ourselves on the ground floor until we start now to change our heart. Allah would never change the condition of our people until they change what's inside here. And when we start the process of purifying our hearts, we're not envying one another. We love for our brother what we love for ourselves. We have respect. We have respect for leadership and all these different things that are intrinsic, in becoming a true believer. We must have those qualities. And when we graduate from being an ordinary Muslim to becoming a believer, then our lives will start to reflect that reality. And then some of us, by the mercy of Allah, might transcend a higher level of becoming a muhsin, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. So the preparation, we need to prepare ourselves for the fitna that is in front of us. Palestine is just the beginning. These people, their plan is to set up the state of Dajjal, the Dajjalian state. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that no prophet that ever come before didn't warn them people about this Dajjal. No prophet didn't come and no one warned them, except they warned them about that. But he said, Allah's giving us more. He's giving me more information, and I have communicated more to you than anybody else. So we have all the different hadith to tell us about the different days. We live in the earth for so long. One day will be like one day will be like a year. One day will be like a month, a week, and the rest will be like the ordinary days of our and so on. All these details are there. So the intent of the Zionists, because we have to be brutally frank here, is to demolish the Masjidul Aqsa compound, to set up this temple of Solomon, the third temple of Solomon, so that they would rule from that base. So Palestine now is in their way, so they have to cleanse, mash up and destroy and move them out in order to go about their business. So when they finish, they're going to the West Bank, then they're pushing further until they have what they call the biblical Greater Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates. So all the Muslims in Egypt who feel that they're out of the woods, and all the Muslims and them who own all them countries like Jordan and things, your time is around the corner, because Gaza is number one on the list. Then you have West Bank, and you have this one, and everybody else, and they're going and they keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exposed them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exposed us, the Muslim Ummah, to see if we will continue to be indifferent and in a state of, that is not my issue, that is not my business. It is your business. Because that Masjidul Aqsa is the place where the Prophet ﷺ left to go on the Miraj. It's one of the places that we can make pilgrimage to. It's the third holiest shrine in Islam. It's the first Qibla for the Muslims. But more than that, it is the symbol the symbol of resistance, that we need to show the unity and have that Muslim, the Muslim world have to show that sense of unity. This is an opportunity to bring the Ummah together. This is an opportunity to bring all the hearts of the believers together around this cause. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be among those who understand where we are and where we need to go. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to keep us enlightened. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for anything that we might have said that might be in error. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barak wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح المغلق والخاتم لما سبق نسب الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين أقيم الصلاة.
Check one. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر. كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترون عين اليقين ثم لتسألون يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Just want to give additional notifications. The Youth and Sport Wazirate will be hosting a carnival camp at the Fortin Masjid from Carnival Saturday evening to Carnival Tuesday evening. I'll say it again, from Carnival Saturday evening to Carnival Tuesday evening. Our target group would be children between the ages of 7 to 17, and each participant will need to make a contribution of $150 towards food and transportation. As you all know, the community has embarked on a food bank drive. Alhamdulillah, we are doing well so far, but we are in need of specific items such as rice, flour, oil, and sugar. Don't forget, before you leave, hug your brother, salam your brother, talk to your brother. This is a community of love and brotherhood. So without further ado, our young buds in the community have something to share with us. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. And mentioned the man of the fish when he went off in anger and thought that we would not decree anything upon him. And he called out within the darknesses, "There is no deity except you. Exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers." It continues on. So we responded to him and saved him from the distress, and thus do we save